Hey, it's Marlon Smith here. I'm so excited. You are in for a treat. My goodness. Listen, church, money, and current events. This is session number 1. And you see, we have our special guest, Pastor Casey Kimbrough. He's going to be sharing some information with us. So get ready. It is October 1st. Do you hear what I'm saying? October 1st. What? I mean, the year is flying by. And just think, we started this on April 2nd. Come on now. I mean, look, who is here? Type in the chat box, where are you watching from? Because we want you to understand this is your show. This is your movement, right? The Real Money Coach every Thursday at 8 o'clock. And so I want to find out which state rocks the house. Type in the chat box, where are you watching from? Because again, we love to celebrate with you. I am Marlon Smith. I'm about to bring on Tony Jackson, my colleague, and we just like to have fun. But again, this is your time. So I want you to understand, you can type in the chat box where you're watching from. Go ahead and, you can do a watch party, because here's what I want you to understand. With all that's going on in the world today, you're in the right place at the right time. Because when it comes down to it, it's all about each one of us stepping up. And the beautiful thing about it is what you do today will dictate where you'll be tomorrow. So listen, this is entitled Church, Money, and Current Events. I mean, come on now. What are we going to be talking about? I know some of you are just in just to hear what are they going to be talking about. Well, look, my colleague Tony Jackson is the one that came down with this download. So look, we're going to bring him on and we're going to find out, Tony, what in the world are we talking about? Okay. Because I just am so excited. Ruth is here. Ruth, you are no joke. Okay. We're so excited to have you. You are here in Charlotte. Who else is here? Which state rocks the house? Now, Tony, how did you come up with this church, money, and current events? You got to let us in on this, because I know people are like, what is going on?
Hey, Marlon, how are you doing? I'm excited tonight. I've been waiting for this moment.
Sure.
Because we have the Reverend Dr. Casey Kimbrough in the house tonight. I've been waiting for this. Listen, it is so exciting to me to have Pastor Kimbrough on. We got Alice Martin on. We got Ruth Bell on. Patty Glenn is here. Brad Hudson's here, and so we have a whole slew of people. So put where you're from. Tommy Day from Boston, Bean City. Is that what they call Boston? Bean City is here. We got Kim is here from Charlotte. Man, really, really, really excited. Man, really, what really laid on my heart, man, was this. Is that Lisa's here. What October is Clergy Appreciation Month. And because of that, I was like, man, let's have some pastors come in. Let's have some. Dr. Benita Harris is here. Let's have some pastors come and share with us just from their heart, right? Yeah. And then it kind of got from there. It was, those who are involved in this movement of financial literacy.
Sure.
And I remember when I first found out about Clergy Appreciation Month. It was back when I was in my church in Michigan, man, and I found out that my pastor had become pastor in October, right? And he actually was installed the same day that Martin Luther King was installed at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, Alabama. And I was like, wow, what a history there. But man, just to appreciate the men and women who labor in the word, and they bring so much to us. Yeah. And I said, man, let's take October and let's just honor them by having them on the show. And we had to start with our own pastor. We had to start with him. That's How else could we ever start? And we got some other invitations out there. Yeah. And so it's going to be a packed month, man. And there's 5 Thursdays in this month. That's like, wow. So we're going to have 5 outstanding pastors, clergy, men, women of God come and share with us. Yeah. And so then we thought about, okay, this is the Real Money Coach, right? So we talk about money. That's what we talk about on Real Money Coach. So that's why I said church and money, right? And for many people, and historically, that's almost been taboo to talk about money in church. And so we want to talk about that. And then we want to talk about current events, because that is so important, is what's going on in our world today and COVID. And I remember, man, when I was used to go to our national conference, and I remember Pastor Jeffrey Guns from Virginia Beach. He said this. I remember this. He said, you got to have control over three things. If you're a pastor, you got to have a church. You got to control. You got to know where the keys are, where the cash is, and what's going on with the calendar. If you don't know nothing about those three, you're in trouble.
Wow.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about money, and we're talking about tonight and these nights. We want to talk about why these particular pastors decided that they wanted to do something about economics, why they wanted to teach about financial literacy, why they wanted to bring those types of things to their congregation. So we want to unpack that. Good. And then we want to unpack, the current events. We got an election coming up. We got Black Lives Matter. We've seen these things unfold in our streets, riots, peaceful protests, police brutality. It's just all over the place. But all of it impacts the people of God. And so I'm just really excited about getting insight from these people and who hear from God directly and have been charged with pastoring and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ, man. So I'm excited about it. Okay. I'm excited tonight because Pastor Casey celebrates 30 years at Mount Carmel Baptist Church. And I think that is awesome. As you know, Pastor Alexander also celebrated 30 years. So shout out to the park and Bishop Alexander for his anniversary last week. And so, man, it's just a great, exciting time, but yet it's a serious time in our lives too. So just really, man, just excited.
Yeah. And, I think, Tony, the beautiful thing is that especially in these times, right? And, this is not new. There's always things happening in the world. And I'm just very grateful that you received this download because, just for me personally, just really holding on to the word of God when I may not see how to get through, when I may, the road is fuzzy or I'm going through the valley experiences, and it's just been the word of God. And, I celebrate, your excitement because it's at the same time, Pastor Casey Kimbrough, Mount Carmel Baptist Church, Tuckasegee, right? Tuckasegee Street in Charlotte, North Carolina, my pastor as well. And just very grateful, because this is a man who really walks the talk, right? Mm-hmm. His heart is big. He's really, really about being a blessing to the people. And I love what you said, it's not easy being a pastor, and I know you were a pastor and it's not easy. And the thing is though, it's so needed. And so for those of you that are listening, I encourage you to get your notepad because I believe there's going to be nuggets of wisdom that are going to be shared tonight. Because with all that's going on, sometimes, man, I just got to be able to hold on to the word of God, right? And even when I don't see how I'm going to get through, but faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And that tonight, I'm just so grateful that Tony had this download 5 Thursdays in October. And, and so this is going to be a very special month. This really is. And so Tony, I'm going to let you go ahead, brother, and, welcome the man of the hour,
I think what would be interesting, Marlon, is that, really tomorrow marks 6 months since our first show, right? So we started April 2nd. And I'm just wondering, man, I wonder if anybody out there listening, if you were here on the very first show on April 2nd, just type that in the chat box. I just want to see, I want to celebrate it. And really, I want to do this. I want to say thank you to everyone that comes in every Thursday night.
Sure.
Because, we get energized by doing this and we enjoy doing it and we enjoy, talking to people. And so, man, just to have a vehicle, to have an outlet that we can do this. And we live in a country, man, that allows us to do this and we won't be persecuted for, that we know of, right? So not yet. So, and it's just exciting. So if you were here in the very first one, just put it in the chat box And so that we can just say thank you. I know some of you were. I know Elisa was here. I believe Alice Martin was on the very first one. Polly, you might have been on the very first one. Ruth Bell was here. Dr. Anita Harris was here. Brad Hudson was here. So, man, it was just awesome. And just the relationships we've developed with some of the folks over the time. And, you know, and I got to give sentiments. I got to tell, Alice Martin said, greetings to magnanimous Pastor Casey Kimbrough. Look, she wanted to give a shout out to Pastor. So I think that's awesome, right? And so, yeah, so, man, I tell you what, Marlon.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be a great show.
Yes, it will.
Great show.
Yes, it will.
You might not be able to go to sleep tonight.
Yeah.
You might be excited tonight.
And with that, you know, please, you know, this is interactive. So again, if you have a question, if you have some feedback, go ahead and type it in the chat box, because this is our time together, right? All we're doing, we create a forum, a very safe forum where we can share information, but we want you to understand that this is your program. And again, you know, there's no question that is crazy. There's no comment that is, you know, strange. We want you just to bring it. Be comfortable, because this is a very safe forum. So, you know, type in any questions. Are you excited? Why are you excited? Type it in the chat box. Or do you feel the anticipation of Tony and me right now?
It's awesome, man. This is going to be the next 45 minutes will probably go by so fast, you guys, because we're introducing, and to me, he is a man's pastor, right? Hey, Evelyn, nice to have you with us tonight. He's a man's pastor, right? But, you know, one of the things that's amazing about Pastor Casey is that he makes everybody feel like they're the most important person in the room. I mean, you know, from my little grandson, Cameron, to me, to my wife, and I seen him do it with other people. And when we were meeting in person, man, he'd say, Tony, and you know, I think Pastor has done this on purpose, man. There's like 5 Tonys in the room, and we're all thinking he's talking to us, you know, when he's preaching and he says Tony. But it's just he's just an awesome person, awesome spirit. And so I'm just really excited about him coming on with us tonight. And so I think we ought to bring him on out of the green room and share with us tonight, Reverend Dr. Pastor Casey Kimbrough.
Wow, Marlon. Thank you for that magnanimous introduction. You guys have so much energy. I've definitely got to catch up. You guys are at number 9 already. I'm at 3. Okay, I got to catch up with this energy that's already out here. But thank you for all of those kind words. Very humbling. And I'm waiting for somebody else to show up on the screen, because that was just overboard. Believe me, that was overboard. Glad to be here. Thank you, gentlemen. And I so appreciate and love you both for what you're doing and what you continue to do in terms of not only this work and this ministry. And I know both of you see this as a ministry and as a calling, a part of your journey in faith. And it's so very important, but also what you continue to do in the larger community. Marlon, I know you got your hands in so many things. I don't know how you do all the stuff you're doing. And Tony, every time I'm somewhere, I'm running into you. I think there's 3 Tony Jacksons. I know there's a junior, but I think there's 3 seniors out there. But thank you so much. And I'm so glad to be here tonight.
Well, we're glad to have you. A couple of other people that chimed in, Adele Ryan from Greenville, Chad Lawson. Now, this is probably one of the bravest men I know, Pastor Chad, because he's a Wolverine fan, but he lives in Columbus. I mean, covering over him, right?
Yes.
It's good to have you tonight. And I know you're a Penn State guy.
Absolutely. That's my alma mater. Shout out to the Nittany Lions. Big Ten football is back. So we're coming up high. We're coming up high, Tony.
Man, you know, this is the only time I watch TV is in the fall of the year. And we got Chiefs and Tallahassee, Florida. Man, so we are from Boston to Tallahassee to Michigan to Charlotte to South Carolina. So we got a broad reach tonight. Everybody wants to hear from Pastor Casey. So, Pastor K, tell me just, I mean, you just celebrating 30 years at Mount Carmel, servant leader. Just tell us a little bit of what that journey's been like for you.
Well, first of all, thank you for the platform to share tonight. And it's such a blessing to have this opportunity. And I do want to give a shout out to my dear friend and brother, Reverend Bishop Claude Alexander. And the reason I want to do that is because we came to Charlotte at the same time. I actually arrived in Charlotte, I believe it was either 2 months or 3 months before Claude did. And so we kind of mirror each other in terms of our journey here in Charlotte. And as you mentioned, it's been a journey of 30 years. I don't like to talk about that because it reminds me I'm too young to have 30 years of pastor. When I was a younger pastor, I hear pastors say things like that. I said, man, that's an old dude right there, man. He's been pastoring 30 years. That's an old dude, you know, but 30 years. So I came to Charlotte and Mount Carmel when I was 30 years old. And even though I was 30, I was mature. I thought I was mature, had been to graduate school, had been married 4 years. I thought I had a sense of what life was about. And of course, when I got called to Mount Carmel, a historic church in Charlotte, North Carolina, pastored by the Reverend Dr. Leon C. Riddick, who I am ever indebted to, him and Mrs. Riddick, who just continued the work that was handed to them by Dr. Davison, and Dr. Davison served Mount Carmel 50 years. He has the longest tenure of any pastor, Mount Carmel, 50 years. Now, I'm quite sure I will not reach that level, but I'm glad to have reached 30. Dr. Riddick was here 26 years, and so I've surpassed that 26 years. And so now I'm at 30 years. But the journey has been a journey of great growth, of maturity, of learning. When we're 30 years old, we feel like we're pretty much grown. But in the eyes of many of the seniors of Mount Carmel, I was the boy pastor, and I couldn't quite grasp that at 30 years old, having gone to graduate school and invested so much time and energy. And I had such a great foundation from Reverend Dr. H. Beecher Hicks, who I was privileged to work with on his staff, and then coming and then pastoring in New Jersey, and from New Jersey coming to Charlotte. The blessing was I preached one time at Mount Carmel, and they called me, and everybody was stunned, including me, but God was in it. And when somebody says, how do you know God is in it? And I said, the evidence is I'm still here 30 years later. So I don't believe you can pastor a church 30 years without God being in it. But it's been a wonderful journey. I've had my ups and my downs. I've learned a tremendous amount. I'll share with Sunday with some of our people that the best part of the journey has been the rich relationships that I've gotten over the years. And to be honest with you, I've probably learned more from the people than the people have learned from me, because you have to realize so many different people, so many different gifts, so much different experience. And as a pastor, you are privileged because people invite you into their lives. They invite you into their sacred moments, into weddings and baby blessings, into their most difficult moments, into the loss of a mother or a child, or to say goodbye to a loved one. You're invited into graduations and meals and all these things. And so you get so deeply invested, not only in the community, but in individual lives. And so we all understand why it's so difficult when pastors transition or leave to go to another church, and how the community really has to adjust. But also the pastor has to adjust, because just as they invite you into their lives, they also enter into your lives, and the relationships become deep. They become wide like a tree root. They go deep, they go wide, and they go very strong. And when you're a young pastor, you don't really get that. I'm gonna just be honest, you don't get that. You don't get how much people invest in you. And I think that's why a lot of pastors have trouble early on. In fact, they're not patient enough to become the pastor. I had a wonderful professor in seminary. His name was Kenneth Smith, Dr. Kenneth Smith. They called him Snuffy. He was a contemporary with Dr. King, marched with Dr. King on one of his first marches. And Snuffy would say that, unfortunately, most pastors, most preachers never stay long enough to actually become pastor. Because you're installed doesn't make you the pastor. The people have to give you the permission to become the pastor, and there is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. And so, as you know, Tony, as you know, Marlon, we stress relationships. We stress the love of Christ Jesus, because ultimately, when it's all said and done, it's not about buildings. It's not about how much money you raise. It's not about how many people are sitting in the pews or any of that. It's really about the quality of the relationships, of the love of Christ that we share one with another. We're all just passing through. Praise God. We're all just passing through. And so we have to care one for another. So that's my little brief introduction. I'm not sure if that's too much. But let me know, Tony.
That's awesome. And I have heard that it actually, it takes 10 years really to become the pastor, right? It takes a while to develop and cultivate those relationships, and you get to know them and they get to know you. And so I can't imagine that being what it was like in your early years, because it's so natural for you. And like I said, you kind of reel us in a little bit. I think you're very strategic in that. And part of it, I remember coming to the first Mount Carmel picnic, church picnic. And it just seems like it was just, it just seems so natural, a great body of people. And everyone said that you would not find a body of Christ that would love on you as much as Mount Carmel. And we found that to be true. One of the warmest places we've ever visited. And so, and that starts at the head. That starts with the leadership. And so I want to shift a little bit.
All right.
And talk a little bit about financial education.
Yes.
And financial literacy. And as many people know, Mount Carmel was the first WINS, wealth building centers in the country. And speaking of reeling in, and I began teaching WINS at Mount Carmel. I was a substitute. I was substituting for this guy who couldn't make it that Sunday morning. And I substituted for him once, and I don't know that he ever came back again. I think you know anything about that guy, Pastor K?
Well, you have to watch those people, Tony. They'll reel you in step by step, Tony, little by little. I'm not gonna comment on that, but I do know that fellow you're talking about.
So tell us why financial literacy, and then I know that it's been there's been a stewardship ministry there for years. I know that this is not, a new concept, but tell us why did you go to the extent that you did with WINS and introducing that, and tell us a little bit what led to that.
Well, both of you already know, and I know your audience knows, because you've been talking about it, and I've listened to several of the shows, and I enjoy them each week. Sometimes I have to listen to them later based on my schedule. But as you've already stated, financial literacy, or the lack of financial education, is an American problem. Yeah. It's not just a problem in the African American community. It's a problem in the nation, because we're not taught it. We're not taught it in the schools. We're not taught it in the universities. Now, of course, if you go study economics, you may get a course on micro and macroeconomics. I remember having that in undergraduate school, but nobody teaches you about money.
Right.
Okay? Right. Nobody teaches you about money. And so while it's an American problem, then we know, as the old adage would say, when America catches a cold, African Americans, we have pneumonia, because the problem is totally escalated in our communities. And so we are first dealing with a great need. And it's not so much that you say, okay, well, let me find something to do. I don't have anything to do. We all have too much to do. All right. The question is, what are the great problems facing us individually and collectively as a people? And we know, of course, that family crisis is a big issue. in terms of the family and the home. And we know that financial resources are a major issue. All right. I believe it was Andrew Young said that, or maybe it was George, Dr. George Frazier, our friend, who said that we're the first people to seek political power prior to seeking economic power.
Yeah.
Normally, you come to the table economically and then politically. All right. Is a reason that all of the upper political offices, you have to be a millionaire to run for them. Can't nobody afford to run for office. You can't be an average person and run for a Senate seat. You know how much money you have to make? It's preposterous.
Wow.
All right. So we know that economics is the foundation of this nation, this democratic nation. We know how important economics is and how important it is in terms of learning how to manage your money. The other part of that is too, and Dr. Frazier talks about this all the time, it's not that we don't have money.
Right.
We're not poor, but we're broke.
Right.
So we have money, but it's going through our hands because we're lacking the education of how to take that money and leverage it so that it creates more money, not only for ourselves, but for the next generation and those who are coming after us. And both of you have heard me say from the pulpit, 0 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 and 0 is 0. So every generation should not have to start at 0.
Right.
And I hear so many people in the church. I've been struggling against this for years. I think we've made a turn with it. I'm so thankful. I would hear people say, I'm not leaving my children anything.
Right.
I'm spending up everything. They don't know what to do with it. Well, if they don't know what to do with it, that's on us. We didn't teach them.
Right.
So
Right.
that makes no sense when we say, I'm not going to leave them anything, while other cultures are leaving them foundational money and helping them even while they're alive, not, to leverage money and to know how to invest it. So this is something I heard Andrew Young say. Andrew Young said, in Atlanta, we made a whole lot of people rich.
Right.
He said, in Atlanta, we made a whole lot of people rich. He said, but we didn't make them wealthy.
Wow.
Right.
We made them rich, but we didn't make them wealthy. And then he said, wealth begins with a mindset, a wealthy mindset.
Right.
And so I want to get it out there, Tony and Marlon, early on, that when we talk about wealth, yes, money is the tangible result of that conversation, but a wealthy mind creates a wealthy life. And so you need money, but you need more than money. You need the spiritual disposition to understand what money is for, how to use it, and how to leverage money so that, one, you don't lose your soul, and two, you can live a fulfilled life with that money. But of course, when we talk about money, many of the people in church, what's the taboo subjects in church, gentlemen? Come on, what's up? What's the taboo subjects in church?
Sin.
Money? Oh, you can't talk about sin too much, but you missed the big one, Tony. Come on. Y'all trying to be modest today. Sex.
Yes.
You can't talk about money and you can't talk about sex. All right? Folk be freaking out. Okay? And everybody wants more money and more sex. Uh-oh, did he say that?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I love what Steve Harvey said about Christians and sex. He said, I don't understand this. He said, Christians don't want to talk about sex. Where all these little Christians keep coming from?
Right.
That's good.
You were saying that, and it made me think about something I heard Michael Roberts say. And for those of you who may not know, Michael Roberts is a Black billionaire.
Right.
He said, growing up, he said, we weren't rich and we weren't poor. We just never had any money. Right. And so when you think about that, that means that there was money just passing through.
Yeah.
And I've said this many times in our classes. It's like, we talk about insurance, we're talking about getting life insurance, talking about leverage. But if we don't teach our beneficiaries what to do with the money,
right,
it will be no different than them hitting the lottery
Right.
And then 2 years later being broke.
Right.
And
Right.
so we have to start, I think education, financial education is the foundation that really is going to open the door for us to change generational wealth.
Absolutely.
And that's a good point. Pastor K, I mean, you know, with what Tony just said, I mean, and you've already said it too, we're not taught. So what was it about, what was it, last year when we did the wins, right? Is that the financial literacy, or was the, you know, and time flies, right? Especially with this, you know, 2020. But what was it? What in your growth and your, you know, just your walk, seeing so many people and so on and so forth, what was it, Pastor K, that made you say now's the time, you know, to be very intentional with teaching financial education?
The reality for me is that, and I don't want to sound too spiritual, because I know some people can't get there. Marlon, it was a calling. It was a calling at this stage in my journey and my ministry, having served so many years, having invested in so many different ways. I've been a part of community action groups. I was one of the initial founders of Helping Empower Local People. I've been a part of Board of Education, community advisory boards, dropout boards. I've dealt with education. I've dealt with political issues. You know, just so many. Housing. I've been on housing boards, affordable housing. All of these issues are important.
Okay.
All of them. So as you continue and mature, you begin to ask God, now, what all of these things are important, but what is it that is the best use of my time and my energy going forward?
That's good.
And what I see is the common denominator that in every arena of our life, if we do not understand in this capitalistic society how to simply manage money, credit card debt, predatory lenders, mortgages, fundamental things. I didn't get in this because I wanted to be some great money advisor. I got into this because I see people every day coming to the church because they're in need, saying, we need help with a mortgage, a rent payment, food, burial, just the fundamental basics of life. Okay. And the reality is, how can we best help people? And as a calling received, I have come to understand that no matter how much money you have, if it's a little bit, if it's a medium amount, if it's a lot, in the different stages of our life, sometimes we have more than others. If that money is mismanaged, if our emotional spending priorities are out of whack, if I'm more concerned about spinning rims on my car than providing food on the table, then I got a problem. If I'm more concerned about wearing somebody else's name on my clothes as opposed to simply having money to buy shoes for the children, there's something fundamentally wrong with that. And I believe it has to do with a very deep systemic lessons that we were taught and continue to pass on that we have to attack in terms of our value system.
Well, you know, and that's very interesting, because we were on a show the other night and we were talking about Dr. Naeem Akbar's book, Psychological Chains and Images of Slavery. And some of the issues that we deal with in our community can go back to those things. And until we unpack the psychology behind money and the mindset and all these things that we heard, right? Because I could say this right now, and everyone could finish this sitting in the chat box. Money doesn't grow on, and we've heard that all our life. You better eat all that food because there are children starving in. I mean, and we've heard these things over and over again, and it has affected our psychology as it relates to money. And sometimes we simply self-destruct. Yes. But I understand what you're saying, because I feel like that the financial literacy, financial education has been a merit of my 23-year career in financial services in my ministry have become one. And you know, it's been, I mean, I was a little hard-headed at first. I wasn't listening to God, you know, but now that's my passion. And that's what I want to see. I want to see a difference among our people in terms of financial literacy and just knowing what to do.
Yeah. And Tony, when we couple that, and I don't want to ever say we blame the victim, because what happens a lot of times is people misunderstand when you say that. You're not saying that people who struggle is all their fault. Because we realize that there is a wealth gap in America 10 times. The average Caucasian family has 10 times the wealth of an African-American family. We know about wage inequity. We know about wage inequity with women. And we know that Black women, unfortunately, get the lowest of that. They're always having to scrape. They've got to deal with sexism and racism. Okay. Right. And let me just throw this into all the brothers who are listening today. Brothers, we got to do a better job, because we got to quit modeling this sexist European thought that somehow women have to stay in their place. A lot of guys get upset because the women are pushing them. They're pushing them. These women are going to school. These women are achieving. I tell a lot of young brothers when I'm doing classes, look, you better learn how to get along with women, because probably your first boss is going to be a woman.
That's right.
They're the ones who in management. They're the ones moving up the ladder. Okay. And you can't simply gripe about it. It means, hey, raise your game up. You got to raise your game up. You got to come to the table ready. But they're dealing with the same economic issues. We know that African-American families are not getting in the overall society a fair shake, a level playing field. But then that becomes even a greater reason why we've got to be educated, and why we've got to be able to help our children to understand how to work together, how to build together, what entrepreneurship is all about in this new gig economy. I mean, the world has changed. The factories have changed. You know, they're saying, you know, in another 10, 15 years, there'll be no such thing even as service jobs. Robotics is coming so fast. Look at Google, look at Amazon. It's coming so fast. You won't even be able to go get a job on a line assembly, on an assembly line. And I'm talking from somebody who knows from experience. When I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in Langley High School. I remember when they came into high school and said to us as 12th graders, listen, these mill jobs will not be here. Do not plan on going to work in a mill. And you know, Pittsburgh is a mill city. It's the steel town. I mean, you have heard about the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? I'm just saying, you have heard about them, right? Okay, okay, I'm just saying, okay.
You have heard about them, yes.
Okay, I'm just saying, you have heard about them. Well, it's a steel town. And for years, African Americans fought to get into those mills because they couldn't get them in there first. But eventually they got in there. The unions wouldn't let them in. Couldn't get in the unions. All they could do was sweep floors. But they fought and they got in there. But that season came to an end. And I remember them saying to us, this is going to end. You guys don't, if you don't go to school, if you don't prepare yourself, these jobs are not going to be here. Not 5-7 years later, by the time I was coming out of college, them jobs were gone.
Wow. And you know, we experienced the same thing in Michigan, you know, being the auto industry. and that was just one of those industries that operated as though time stood still.
Right.
In terms of, cars with better efficiency. And we're still building, the Cadillac, the Ville that making 8 miles an hour per gallon. And
right.
while Toyota was building the car that was going 28, 30 miles a gallon.
Right.
And so we operated as though time stood still. And like you said, my dad and so many like that, they came out of the South and they were looking for an opportunity that they didn't see there. And they found it in the factories of the North,
right,
steel mills of the Northeast. And they were looking for a way to provide a better life for their families. And that's what they did. And they sacrificed and they did that monotonous job, 8 hours a day, every day, to make sure that we had a better life. And we're better off because of it.
Yeah.
But things evolve.
Right.
And things evolve, and we have to be willing to shift with the times, which is what I want to talk about a little bit too, is here we are in 2020. Who'd ever thought that we would be 6 months into a pandemic called COVID-19? Tell us how the church has adjusted to that, because it changed a lot of things. And churches, we knew it. Our people, we love to come. We want to feel good. We're going to clap. We'll get our praise on. We want to do all that. And now we're in this situation where that whole dynamic has shifted.
I want to talk about that. Marlon, you want to jump in there and say something? I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think I want to comment that the fact that we are standing on our forefathers and foremothers, the sacrifices, and yet we have to understand that innovation, and I know that I definitely want to hear what are some success stories, Pastor K, as far as individuals that have gone through the wealth education programs, at Mount Carmel. So that, our viewers can understand that, education is the key and being intentional. And one of the things that you said was, we weren't taught this, but we cannot use that as an excuse.
No.
We cannot use that as an excuse. And so it's very important for us to be intentional. For our viewers, we have some people like you saw, since April 2nd that have been here, right, on this journey. Right. So they're saying, because they could be watching television, right? But they say, this is helping me, my family. But I do want to, after you answer Tony's question, I would love to hear, some success stories, individuals, from Mount Carmel. And I know even Mount Carmel's touched the community because, and you had a conference, Martin Luther King holiday weekend. So, want to just talk about, some of those things, those success stories, because I think when we hear other people's successes, it says, it's like a reflection, it's like a mirror. And we say, wow, they did it. I can do it too. So I definitely want you to talk about that as well.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do Marlon's question first.
All right.
We're trying to run it in that vein. Let's go ahead.
All right. So at Mount Carmel, what is wonderful, Mount Carmel is a mini mixture of the community. Mm-hmm. And we've got people at varying different economic levels. And I'm so thankful for that. We, by no stretch of imagination, are a monolithic economic church. All the people are in this economic class. So we have a pretty wide range, which is wonderful. Now, what happened in the classes, I don't know if it's surprising, is, like I said, I learned as much as the students. But what I learned a lot about the people. Mm-hmm. We spend a lot of time talking about the psychology of money and what we've been taught and what's in our community. And slowly people began to get comfortable in the class because, of course, when you talk about money, it's a very emotional and personal issue. So you can't just jump in there and start telling this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. Do whatever you want with your money, Rev. You ain't messing with my money. Okay, like, no. So first thing we had to do is assure them we're not trying to be experts. We're not trying to come and get your money. You know, preachers ain't got the best reputation talking about money anyway. So we got some baggage we have to work over, okay? We ain't got the best rap anyway. So, but what we found out is we were discovering that when we talked about credit and credit cards and how much they actually are paying and costing, people actually saying, I'm paying that credit card off. I'm cutting that credit card off. I don't need 7 credit cards. 1 or 2 will be enough. I can do everything I need with those 2. Yes. And I'm going to pay them off every month. All right. Okay. I'm going to do that. Beautiful. We start talking about home ownership and that you could have your own home and you didn't have to be exceptionally wealthy. But if you began to just start a process and to hear one of the brothers talk about his goal was to one day own a home that he never thought he would achieve.
Wow.
And by the end of the class, he was saying, guess what? We got a house. We're moving into a house. And to be so excited about that, to have another student say, and I was pushing them, hey, listen, I know we love the checks and all that. Let's start learning how to use this technology, this online banking. I want you to pay 1 bill at least online. No, I can't do that. I got to, no. And to start having people to see, that's going to cost me more money. No, it's going to save you time and it's going to save you money. And to see people taking the step, okay, I'm going to pay 1 bill. I'm going to try it. Okay. And that's the best, for me, the most wonderful part is to see the growth of people. To see people who were totally against insurance, to begin to understand that insurance is one of the foundational tools for wealth building. And not simply it's just something to pay a bill, but I'm learning how to use insurance to leave not only for those behind me, but learning to use insurance and while I'm living, how to leverage that in terms of while I'm living. Big lesson. Home ownership, of course, as you guys know, it's still, for most people, their home is their primary wealth vehicle in terms of growing wealth. And it's not so much because they're paying the mortgage off, it is the accumulation of the value of the home over time. And to see people begin to grasp that debt reduction, that's so exciting to see people say, man, I'm getting out of debt. And, those kind of things, Marlon, really just continue to get me excited. And there was one lesson we talked about, and it changed my life. Because all these lessons, when you're learning them, you start applying them to your life. Now, I'll be honest with you, I am so much better off a year and a half later than I was a year before. I have so much less debt. Money I was spending on debt, I'm now using in investment vehicles. I mean, just by shifting and learning how to shift money. But there's something we were reading in a lesson. I think it's the lesson of debt, Tony, where in that lesson it was saying that whoever you are in debt to, you are a slave to.
Yeah.
The Bible talks about that the borrower is slave to the lender, right? And so when we took that and looked at it and broke it down and said, wait a minute, I got 2 car loans. I'm working for the car company. I got to get rid of these. I'm a slave to them. I can't stop working because they're going to come get me now.
Right.
And I don't sign up for no debt now without saying, am I willing to be a slave to this? Okay. Which now means, hey, I got to practice more patience. So maybe it's something I want. So maybe I need to save to get that now.
Right.
Okay.
Versus going out, charging it.
Charge, right? Just solve the problem, charge it. That is us.
I love 2 Kings 4, verse 1-7 with the widow with the oil. And it talks about there where her husband had died. There's so many lessons in there.
Yes.
Her husband's died. Okay, so there's nothing left. He didn't leave him anything. She's got a jar of oil, and that's all she has left. And the man of God tells her to go fill the oil, and she's worried because her husband's creditors are going to come take her children.
Yes.
That's being a slave to the lender.
Yes.
And so many lessons in that. And then, you know, he tells her to bottle it and go sell it. You know, we could say that's entrepreneurship and a lot of different things. But you're right. I think personally, I know it for a fact that I'm better off for having taught it than I was before, because I'm growing, just like you mentioned, as we do that. And we do, and the more we teach it, the more we grow. And it's just been a blessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's important, Tony, that we stress nobody's perfect. You will make mistakes. Even if you're on this journey, sometimes you fall down, you make a mistake, but you get up and you rectify it to the best you can, and you keep moving forward. It's like a habit. You know, if you have a habit of spending, you can't stop cold turkey. You know, you really have to ease out of that habit. All right. And then say you had a bad emotional day, or you had a bad experience at the office, or you had a conflict with your spouse or your significant other. All of those habits come rushing up, and your first thought is, "I'm gonna go buy me something."
Right.
You're trying to nurture your ego. And, you know, we have to literally like addicts. You know, a lot of people, we turn to spending addicts. We get our joy from spending.
Wow.
And somebody listening to this will say, "Nah, you don't know what you're talking about." Go in your closet right now and look at the stuff you bought that you're not wearing. Look at the stuff you bought twice.
Ouch.
Okay, you already had it, but you went and bought it again.
Right.
You just was, you had to buy something.
Right.
I ask myself every so often, I say, I gotta go buy something.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Then look at your credit card statement and realize you bought it twice, but you're paying for it 4 times.
4 times. Right. I love it. I love it. So those are some of the success stories. A whole lot other ones.
Yeah.
Marlon, and you know, just tremendous. I know you guys have seen that in the classes as well, because both of you have been teachers at Mount Carmel and have had that experience, and people coming to you individually and sharing what a blessing has been for them.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the amazing things to me too was the ages of the people. We had people as young as 16 and as golden seasoned 86. You know, and it's just like that's a 70-year difference between a 16-year-old and an 80-year-old in the same class, both all getting something out of it. And I think that was a tremendous.
Right. And wasn't it wonderful to discover that these lessons are ageless? We look at people and make the assumption that they got this lesson at some point.
Right.
But most people grew up in homes where you didn't have these conversations. Now, we had some students in class that were blessed. They had some great family members, great teachers in their own home, and they were able to contribute to the class and to really enhance the class. But the majority of people will say, "No, I didn't get that in my home," or "I didn't have those conversations at the table." And unfortunately, because many of our parents and our grandparents didn't get those lessons, how could they pass them on to us? And of course, they did the best they could. I love my grandparents and parents, and I celebrate them always. But I also have lived long enough to realize there were some things they didn't teach me because they couldn't teach them to me. And that's why they told me to go learn how to read, boy.
Wow.
Right.
You need to go get some stuff yourself.
Yes.
Well, and they couldn't articulate it.
Yes.
Because Mama could take a couple dollars and feed us all week long, a couple dollars, but they didn't know, they couldn't really articulate this is how they did it. But they had that survival instinct where I'm not going to let my babies go hungry. Right. And you could stretch it out and make it work. And so,
hey, Tony, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You talk about your mama, how she can take a few dollars and feed y'all for a week. Okay. Now you talk about generation shift. All right. If I tried that with my kids, there'd be a riot in my house. Okay. We all have done it, Tony. We all have done it.
Yeah.
Because we've been blessed at a certain level, then our children have benefited from that. So our college education, our children have benefited, and they take it for granted.
Sure.
Amen.
Amen.
And so many of those things that you talked about, we all experienced growing up. But for them, it's like, what? You want me to eat these beans? How long? Okay.
Right.
I ain't eating that. Okay.
Right.
Because they know they have options. But again, I want to get back to your point. The reason I raise this is if we are not teaching them, no matter what we leave them, somebody else will end up with it.
Right.
That's profound.
Somebody else will end up with it. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let Marley finish this out here, but I do want to say this. As many of you know, we are doing a virtual WINS class on Saturdays from 11 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern time. And it's winsfall2020.com. Pastor Casey said he's going to come by and teach one of the classes for us. And so we're looking forward to that. And just want to if you have not had a chance to go through or you want to go through again, just log on, register, come out and be a part of this. And really what we're hoping to do is we want to raise up other teachers. And we want an army of folks out there that are doing this and teaching and inspiring others. And you don't have to have it all together to do it. That's one of the great things is, we always say, we use this analogy, you don't have to wait for all the traffic lights to be green to leave your house.
Yes.
Right? And so we learn as we go, and we're just so excited. It's been a wonderful, wonderful visit. So much that we can say and talk about. But Pastor Casey, thank you for just being a leader and being out in front of this. And so, and just setting an example, we still feel this, and we believe this, that model is the model. It's the model of a WINS program. It's the model of financial education. And it's not to say that we were perfect, but Zig Ziglar says this. He says, you don't have to be great to start, but you got to start to be great.
Right. And you don't have to be perfect to be successful. So nobody's going to be perfect. If you wait to be perfect, you'll never do anything.
Right.
Yeah, that's powerful. And thank you, Pastor, just for the calling. And, that's one of the nuggets of wisdom I hope that our viewers take away. Each one of us was born on purpose. There's a call on your life, each one of us. And that to me is really the opportunity. And so for all of us, to step up, as Tony said, this Saturday, WINS Fall 2020 at 11 a.m., typed it in the chat box. We'd love for you to come. And I think one of the things that Pastor K shared that is so important is if we don't teach our younger, children, our nephews, our nieces, they will repeat some of the same mistakes. And I love what Pastor K said, 0 plus 0, 0 times 0, 0 divided by 0, 0 subtracted by 0 is 0. Okay, that's the engineer in him, right? And so the thing is that the value of this is we have a responsibility. And for the hundreds of people that are watching this, I challenge you to say, you know what? Let me find 3. Let me find 3. Let me invite 3 people this Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's free, right? And and let's go through this with 3 other family members or friends. This WINS wealth building course. You get a workbook. You get the activity assignment. You get the video playback email. I mean, why not? On your time, you can watch it. You can, join us live at 11 a.m. on Saturday, or you can watch it when it's a convenient time for you. As Pastor K said, he's not always watching, this forum. right? This town hall forum every Thursday night, but he can watch the recording. And so there's value in that. And I hope that you feel our spirit. You know, this isn't just talk. There's a purpose for each and every one of us. And so I want to say thank you, Pastor K, and would love for you to just share any closing thoughts that you have, and then we'll just wrap up. I want to thank Tony for receiving the download, you know, to say, hey, let's do this. You know, church, money, and current events, you know, and for him to have that wisdom. And yeah, it's a little edgy. It's a little edgy. Right? But I want to say thank you, because we need, let's put it like this. Where you are right now, for all of our listeners and our viewers, where we are right now, in order to get to where we want to be, what got you to where you are right now is not going to take you to that next level. And so what Tony, the download he got was, hey, church, money, and current events, it's edgy, but it's that type of thing that's going to raise you up, you and your family. And so I'd love to just say, Pastor K, please share a few closing remarks and any words of wisdom that you'd like for our viewers to take away. I mean, this whole, and I want to encourage our viewers, share this recording. You can, like Tony said, you can go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Real Money Coach.
And you remember to subscribe to it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, but share with your family. Each one teach one, each one reach one. That's a nice cliche, but are we living it? Especially now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is time now. And I'm not just talking about the election. I'm not just talking about Black lives. I'm talking about just in your life. Tomorrow's not promised. And so let's make our life matter. So Pastor K, please share a few closing comments. And
I think it'd be great. We'll let Pastor K have the last word. Chris could even pull us down. Pastor K, stay in the green room after we finish. But why don't you have the last word? What do you want to say to the audience from your heart? And we thank you greatly for being on.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Marlon, for allowing me to share tonight and to just have this opportunity to just hang out with you guys. It's always a blessing to hang out with you, and I get so much from it. I do simply want to remind people of this. Each of you are brilliant. You are special. You have far more gifts and talents within you than you realize. I want you to understand that you are made just the way God wanted to make you. And our life journey is about not only reflecting the glory of God, but reaching deep within and continually pulling out of ourselves all of the richness that God has given us. There's a story called Acres of Diamonds. Russell Cornwell wrote that years and years ago about a man who went all over the world searching for treasure, trying to find riches. After exhausting himself, unable to find any of those riches, he comes back to his home, walks out one day. There's a stream running by his little small cabin where he lives. He looks down in the stream, and there he sees a bright, shiny rock. That bright, shiny rock, he picks it up and realizes it's a diamond. He takes it down to the merchant, and the guy tells him, this is the biggest diamond we've ever found in this region. Guess what? On that property right there was acres and acres of diamonds. His wealth was already right there for him. Your wealth is in your mind. It is already there. Cultivate your mind. Do the research. Dig up in your mind. Use your genius. Exercise courage. We always talk about pray, plan, move. Pray, plan, move. Don't plan and pray. Pray, plan, and then move into action. And the last step is to reflect, then do it again. Pray, plan, move. Love you guys. Thank you for the privilege to share. And remember to care for each other and share the love.